All right, 46 degrees outside. She started fine. There is my baby sitting right there, ugly as sin, but I got rid of the rear mud flaps. So let's see how this thing is. I should have filmed it, but it really didn't take all that much. I think the exhaust brake's on. Now it's shut her off. So we're gonna get headed out to the shop, and yeah, we'll get this thing worked on today. We have to do the exhaust manifold, wicked wheel, fuel filter, and transmission service. So it should be super easy. We'll have this thing done today. The manifold's gonna take me some serious time, so we're just gonna start with, I might start, just get all the small stuff done and then do the manifold. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, we're back at it. We're gonna be doing that exhaust manifold today and wicked wheel. So I'm gonna ask him if he also wants to add some time and get rid of that cover on there, the silencer ring. So we'll see what he says, but other than that, shouldn't be super bad. All right, so while this thing's out, this thing is actually pretty decent in the making. But here's that filter. I'm gonna clean it out for him just because I already have it out. That is pretty dang dirty. This is a Banks filter. So I get that taken care of. Just waiting on a response back for that wicked wheel and the little, you guys can see down in there. See that? There's that silencer ring on them, and to do them you actually have to pull the front cover off, and there's 3 rivets that you'll drill out. But yeah, so definitely don't want to be removing this guy right here. I don't want to take that out because that can get to be quite a pain. So I would just loosen the clamp up there and then pull that front cover off. But I shouldn't need to take any coolant lines off. I really don't want to mess with them because you can see just how crusty they are. So kind of typical for a low mileage Maryland vehicle. So aside from that, I always like to put the bolts back in as well. That way you know where every single bolt goes. So just kind of like loosely fit it in there. You can see that, but that's pretty much it. So got a little turbine down in there. Here's where we're at. HE 300 VG, so we're gonna get this out, which you guys can see. There's 1 rivet, 2, and 3. All 3 of those pins that basically there's no way to get them out without drilling them. So you got to drill all 3 of them, pull this out. You guys can see, excuse me, Lee. You guys can see down in there to get the bottom bolts. It's easier. You guys can see the back 2 there, but there's 1 right there on the bottom. So it's easier to get once you remove all that. So we're gonna get that replaced. I showed you guys in yesterday's video, the wicked wheel. So we're gonna replace that with this guy right here. There's your part number and all that. Yep. And then it is balanced from them. So no worries. They said don't tighten it down too much. It will tighten itself. So weird, but you can see there's the marking too. So if you've ever pulled a manifold and a turbo off of one of these trucks, you know that they are super difficult. And I just did all 4 of them myself. Bottom one's a pretty difficult one. Those 2 are the easy ones, and then the back one wasn't super bad, but you basically have to put a wrench on it and then pull towards you, and there's not much room to get leverage on it. These 2 go no problem. Like, you just take a big long wrench and you go for it. That one down there, I don't know how you'd get that bolt off without taking the front cover off anyway. So basically what I gotta do now, I gotta get that flare off for the back pressure sensor and start taking all the nuts off. This should come off pretty easily, but we shall see. Here we got a little heat shield off here. We have the back pressure sensor off. Now the thing about this is we're actually gonna end up cutting this flare off as per the instructions. And we basically reuse this right here. So basically like a boost line or something, but there's a little fitting in here that's going to go over top of this, and then that will crush that down. But yeah, basically we're going to end up cutting that off. So that's how we'll do that. And you guys can see there's what it looks like bare. I think these are 1/2 inch, so we're going to get every one of them off. And we also have to get, there's this guy right there, and then that long one right there I got to get off. So this is so much easier without an EGR cooler. For anybody that would want this done and the EGR cooler is still in the way, you're not getting quoted the little bit of time that this is going to take. Whereas like if there was an EGR cooler, this is a full pretty much 8-hour day dealing with all of this. So it's just one of those, because basically taking this manifold off, you're at the point where you're doing the work to pull the turbo. So it definitely takes a lot more time than people would see. I think I quoted him with everything we're doing. I'm going to go through here and I'm going to give you guys what the actual quote is, because I've changed, we kind of added some things. So I'm going to go through and quote things, and if people don't like the quote that I'm going to basically give, because we're into it about 15 hours right now is the quote, and I quoted about 75 an hour, which is what I'm charging currently right now. So basically the speed manifold, head studs and valve adjustment, grid heater delete plate, fuel filter, no, not the fuel plate, PCV delete, and the wicked wheel, transmission fluid change, oil change, and turbo silence. I need to get rid of fuel filter delete plate. So yeah, and then the turbo silencer, removing that as well. So it's all this stuff that kind of like adds up, and this is exactly why. It all adds up pretty much. So the quote's like 15 hours for everything, but you're also got to realize I'm only charging 75 an hour. If you were to take this and do everything that I'm doing now, you take that to a shop, you're going to get over a $2,000 quote in my area. That's just how it is. So my overhead's a lot lower, and I'm only doing this temporarily. If I was doing this full time, I would absolutely be charging a lot more, especially with a shop like this. I'd probably be charging that normal 120 an hour that normal people get, because you'd have to, especially with inflation and how everything is right now. Let's just say everything's pretty expensive. So this guy's super cool, awesome truck, and this thing's going to be working a lot better, and he's also going to save himself probably about $1,000 or $1,500 on all the labor that we're doing and everything. So basically I'm quoting off of what I think in my head, and as well as what other people are saying that it would be, but I have a general idea of how long every certain thing takes. I know to swap a turbo out, and if you want to swap a turbo and you got to pull the manifold with it, and you have to redo all the coolant, you have to do the tuning on everything, the little actuator that's down there, you guys can see right there. To do all of that pretty much, and those bolts are going to snap, so now you're going to have to get new hardware and everything. You're into this, like this could be a 10-hour day just on this part right here. So it's one of those, at least this is a cleaner truck and a low mileage truck, that it makes it a lot easier. All right, so this is about where we're at now. I just got it out. Yeah, pulled, came right through about here. So it actually fit. It wasn't very easily. I would recommend taking these off, but you know, definitely fit. And yeah, here she is. So for what it is, that is such a tiny, fully open. Here's about the difference, so you guys can see in here. Now you look at this one hole for that, and there's one hole for that one, and then the rest come out that. So big difference. Definitely worth it. All right, so they give you new studs, which I don't have one on me right now, but so I'm working on taking all of these studs out. We're going to taking all these studs out and putting new ones in. So basically you can see they're double nutted up. So these are, I believe they were 215s, yeah. So double nut it, pull them out, double nut the next one, put them in. Okay, so I'm not going to say this is easy. Definitely takes some effort to get them really, really tight. But then basically all I'm doing here is just like that. And you got to do this 3 times. So one for each stud. So you got 1, this one's done, 2, and then 3. So this is one of those things that, again, this is something you do on somebody else's truck that's paying you for labor. Whereas on mine, I just don't care. So mine's actually welded to the manifold because they're different flanges. So I'm going to get this a while, and we'll go from there. So when you're taking these studs out, you'll notice, like, once you get to a point, like, it wants to get tight. After you've sprayed it with your PB blaster, wiggle it a couple times, and then do another one, and then just keep going back and forth with it. And eventually, the other one was really difficult. Eventually, you'll just be able to get it out. It'll get tight, and you'll see, like, right now it's getting tight. Start moving it back and forth, let the lube get in there and do what it needs to do. Wrong way. And just really, you really need these nuts to be tight up against each other too. Because if not, then you're gonna have issues. So, luckily none of the nuts that I am doing this with are gonna get reused at all. So, just gonna throw this whole thing in the scrap pile, and I may have to take the nuts though to put the other studs in. For some reason they give you 5, so I gotta figure out where that 5th one goes, but there you go. So that's the easy way to get these out. So the second one was not easy. That thing was fighting me. So if it gets tight when you're pulling it loose, retighten it and just keep going back and forth and working with it. It'll work with you, I promise you. Just make sure that you're putting plenty of lube on it. All right, here is the old wheel compared to the new one. I honestly could not tell you what differences there are. We're gonna try it. So there's the OEM stuff, and yeah, we're gonna put this guy in. So yeah, let's well, never got to try one, so I'll put that in there. It specifically says not to torque it. It just says, you know, tighten it down, you know, to its click. I'm gonna give it, you know, its oomph, but you know how it goes. So I'm gonna get that on there, tighten it up as best I can, and then they say, guess we'll see. I've never gotten to try one of these. I would really love to try one of these in my VGT turbo. I wanted to try this and the intake side of their, I think it was Spool Logic that was the one that I was going to try, but we'll see. All right, absolute pain getting that manifold in, but it's finally in. All the bolts are tight, and unfortunately, see, I'm not the biggest fan of these. Unless they're supposed to be like locking ones. I would prefer those, but we'll see how these do. Probably say in a week or so, like retorque everything up, see how everything's doing. So I'm gonna get that drilled out and cut the piece that we need to cut. This guy here. I'm not gonna get time to do the transmission service tonight, but we will at least do the fuel filter and this, and get that drilled out. All right, so I got this guy here, got it all cut down so it's nice and neat. And then we'll grab, I think you guys can see up there, right there. So we're gonna put that in the manifold now, and yeah, unfortunately there's nowhere to bolt it into on this thing because it's a different system. All right, so I got this out. These things are there's no like right and wrong way to do this. Honestly, I'm thinking my favorite way to do it at this point, I'm still learning every time I do it, but there is a pin, you guys can see, goes right through it. So your best bet is to drill like right straight through. Once you've kind of drilled them and gotten them decent, then you can just kind of take a hammer along the back side. I'll show you. Prop it up, set that there. If you take this, and you can see just how it is in there, see that? And that whole thing comes out. So you'll hit it along the backside. All right, you guys can see just how much bigger that is. Now, some guys will tell you, you know, you gain or lose fuel economy, this and that. Honestly, it's one of those things that people just like the sound of it. Will you lose fuel economy? I think there was a guy that did a video on the pros and cons of this before, and he did real world testing, and I think he actually ended up losing mileage, but it definitely sounds cool without it. All right, so I went and got a old fuel filter off, as you guys can see right there. And yeah, everything is done. Hopefully have no problems with everything. But the only thing I didn't do too out of everything was the trans stuff. So I spent 8 hours on this yesterday, and I think I'm into this about, I'd like to say I'm right on that 14-hour mark that was quoted for all that stuff. And then it would have been another hour to do the transmission service. So I'm into it about, let's say, 14 hours. So not too bad. Pretty much quoted that dead on. I feel like that was pretty good, but that exhaust manifold was brutal. So what I'm gonna do, we'll get this thing fired up, and I'm gonna put all the spare parts in the bed. I'll ask him what he wants to do with the spare parts first, but if he wants them, I'll put all the spare parts in the bed. I'll go from there. So let's see if this thing fires. after a long day of sitting and getting worked on again. And I think this time I'm pretty sure I plugged all the sensors in. Cool. So she runs. I didn't prime the fuel filter and it's still running. This thing's really quiet for what it is. Fell down. Other than that, yeah, so we'll be driving this thing home. Wonder if this thing has return cruise control. Oh, it does have the high idle. It has high idle. Some of these trucks didn't come with them. This one apparently did, or he tuned for it. These things sound so good though. So if you guys don't know, if you want to do high idle on your truck, all you really need to do, cancel. All you do is you turn your cruise control on, and then you hit the set button and it'll raise the idle up, and then you can actually hit resume and it'll idle all the way up to 1500 RPMs. The more you know. The darndest thing about lifted trucks is I can't actually reach the hood to put the hood down. So gonna have to jump. Oh, that sucked. So there you go. Gonna have to get myself cleaned up, hands a little dirty and whatnot, but yeah, I'm gonna go through all these parts and everything and we'll go from there. But I am into it, like I said, about 14 hours. So get the tailgate put down so I remember to grab the stuff and we'll go from there. All right, we're cruising now. You can definitely hear the turbo now. That wicked wheel and the fact that we gutted the that little housing piece. Listen to that exhaust brake now.
Are you not using the brakes?
You can hear it. I'll wait for this guy over here to go. You guys can't see through the tent at night. It's kind of nice. So let's get this thing going up the hill, see how well it accelerates. I'm not gonna like floor it or anything, but I'm just gonna drive, listen to it. I don't like the shift points. It definitely shifts way too early and lugs the engine, it seems. I don't like that. But besides that, it should be, I don't know. That's definitely weird. Like, yeah, it just shifted at 2,000. Now we're lugging 1,600 RPMs up the hill. And you can hear the vanes moving in and out. Like, because you can hear the turbo spooling up more and more, and then less and less. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. There we go. This guy up here. So you'll hear it, like, if you keep a consistent throttle pressure, you'll hear it go from like the small side to the big side, because if you'll hear it the whistle more as it goes to the smaller side to spool it up more. I need to figure out how to turn that seatbelt chime off, but there you go. Listen to this thing. You can hear it whistle pretty good. And then we go down the mountain and we just ride it down. Alright, so I'm not one to like beat anybody's equipment, or like I'm not the guy who like floors people's stuff and just stuff like that. But like just casually driving this thing around, the second it gets into power is when it shifts. It's kind of weird. I'm assuming that has to do with the tuning. So this is a built trans, so it shifts kind of hard for what it is, which, you know, built transes do that. So yeah, we'll probably get this thing back to do some head stud, or not head stud. We'll probably get this thing back to do the tranny service and a upgraded lift pump. We got a fleece pump to do on this truck, so probably a couple weeks, or at least after Christmas, because I'll be pretty much busy every day up until Christmas. So I've got everything scheduled. But basically, yeah, this is it. I'm loving the sound of that turbo. So trying to convince him. Come on, if you're watching this, you know you want to do a second gen swap. So. Other than that, this thing is definitely different to drive around. I do kind of miss my truck though. So, aside from that, hope you guys enjoyed. Here, I'll show you guys what I mean by getting into the power. Like, I go to accelerate. It just shifts early. The second it shifts, I'll show you again here. Let me show you. Go accelerate. And shift normal, gets into the power, shift. It double shifts. And then it goes to get in the power, and then it shifts again and lugs it down to 1500. So yeah, that's my only gripe with it. Besides that, I mean, I feel like, you know, tuning can definitely change that up. So this tranny doesn't have very many miles on it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you want to see more. Let me know if you have any mechanic work for me, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.